Okay, I don't know how to begin this. I am on a journey to set sail to the very end of human nature, to explore why there are things in this world that makes our hearts skip a beat, both in a good and a bad way. Because this crazy, chaotic world where it may sometimes feel like things are out of our control, the best thing we can do as a people is help each other search for our individual existential truths. And my truth lies somewhere in the realm of aesthetics. Beauty, culture, art. Why are there certain things in this world that we are inherently attracted to? Why are there certain things in this world that we are inherently repelled by? And what are these things that we are drawn to exactly? Obviously, the answer will be different for everyone, but despite this, therein lies a very common thread that connects us all as human beings. And it's that we all have this concept of aestheticism. We all have a subjective sense of what we think is beautiful in the world. Why is that? What drives us to think this way? And I want to narrow down this admittedly very confusing rabbit hole I'm about to go down into by focusing on the mediums that we, as a human race, have spent thousands and thousands of years with our ever-changing biology and civilizations poured our blood, sweat, and tears into. And that is the medium of the arts. It's a much more tangible form of aestheticism that we are more than familiar with. And so I thought it was the perfect place to start before we go chasing the stars for knowledge that are much greater than ourselves. So the reason why I'm beginning this series is because I am a firm believer in this theory that art of any medium has such a major influence in our lives. All throughout our lives, we have been exposed to a myriad of different mediums, such as songs, movies, TV shows, books, all sorts of things. And I do believe that the culmination of all of these things plays such a huge part in how we see ourselves and how we see the world. And ultimately, it plays such a big part in how it shapes our culture and also snapshots the context of what our culture is like during this period in time. Through this series, I will be taking a specific medium that we would usually be drawn to or find beautiful, and I will then dissect it into smaller pieces until we find particular elements that may be part of the reason of why someone may be attracted to it. And I mean that I am really getting my talents out and digging right into the bone of it. So that means looking at the social and historical context behind the release of the medium, the creator's supposed intent when they made it, how people reacted to it, and so on, so on. If you're willing to come with me on this journey to find the elusive truth of aestheticism, which starts with the arts, then welcome. I'm very happy to have you all along, and I am looking forward to taking you all on monthly dates, where I pretty much yap at you about different mediums each month and invite you into a conversation about it. After all, life isn't really a short-term thing where the journey to find your existential truth is just gonna drop you and forget about you. No. You're part of this world. You have a heart and soul that loves. And unfortunately, you found your way here. You're stuck with me now, and I'm going to be dragging you along on this journey, whether we both like it or not. Because I believe that we are creatures that are deserving of knowing the higher truth of this existence. Alright, to begin, I thought it'd be easy to start off with a film. And the first film we're going to be looking at to start off the series is Strictly Ballroom. Some of you may have already seen a short reel I had put out last year on Strictly Ballroom, and essentially what we're going to be doing in this video is pretty much an extended version of this reel. And I thought it was quite fitting to start with Strictly Ballroom because this film was actually Baz Luhrmann's first film he directed, just as this video is the first of our new series. So Strictly Ballroom is a film released in 1992 as Baz Luhrmann's directorial debut. And the story in a nutshell tells the story of a young competitive ballroom dancer named Scott, who feels very stifled about the rigid rules of the ballroom world. And as a result, he has this deep desire to break free from those rules and pretty much just dance his own moves. His dance partner's not happy with him, his mom's not happy with him, and as a result, he's forced to dance with a beginner named Fran, who also happens to be the daughter of Spanish immigrants. Through Fran and her father, who is also a paso doble dancer, Scott learns that there is way more to dance than just learning the steps and executing it perfectly, which was pretty much what he's been confined to doing his whole life. It's also about learning how to feel the soul of each movement and learning how to conquer your own fears so that you can live a life that is full. And of course, Scott and Fran, they fall in love. The most memorable quote from this movie, which I think truly does sum up the whole message, is, "A life lived in fear is a life half lived." So before we get into the examination of particular elements in this film, which made this film successful and beloved around the world, we must first delve into the history behind its creation and why Luhrmann felt the need to create this movie in the first place. So Strictly Ballroom actually used to be an original stage play in 1984, apparently when Baz Luhrmann was still studying at the National Institute of Dramatic Arts in Sydney. He wrote the stage play primarily because of his own frustrations with the institution he was studying at, feeling like they were really stifling student creativity with all the strict rules and oppressive limitations in place. And so, drawing inspiration from his own life, having grown up in a ballroom dancing background, he essentially analogized his frustrations into a world of cutthroat competitive ballroom dancing. And thus, the stage play Strictly Ballroom was born. Eventually, a music executive named Ted Albert saw the play during its run and approached Luhrmann with an opportunity to turn it into a film. Luhrmann agreed on the basis that he would be the one directing it. When Strictly Ballroom was released, it won multiple awards and was considered one of Australia's best-grossing films in the world to date. People were charmed by the actors and actresses' Australian accents, along with the glam and the campiness of the entire movie, accompanied by original choreography and refreshing new takes on popular songs included in the film score. Now, knowing the context behind Luhrmann's personal intentions in creating the stage play which led to the film, we've got our first element. It could be that people like this film because they relate heavily to Luhrmann's frustrations that was conveyed through this story. Or perhaps they don't even relate to it at all, but still appreciate the authenticity and soul that has been poured into the story, and that those emotions that Luhrmann had actually created in that still came through, even to those who can't relate. On top of the themes of breaking free from limitations and fear, and having the courage to express yourself freely, there are also cultural contexts here that influence Luhrmann's decisions to make Fran part of a Spanish immigrant family, and how this was actually quite important to the plot. What is interesting is that back in the 80s and 90s, following the end of the White Australia policy in 1973, this period actually marked a transitionary time in Australian culture, where the national identity was actually shifting away from its Anglo identity into more of a multicultural one. So in this sense, it could be that Luhrmann was influenced by the changing cultural times when he made this story, that he decided to write Fran and her family as being the driving force in encouraging Scott to break free from the pressures and limitations put on him through the oppressive rules of cutthroat ballroom dancing, and to learn from them and their culture in order to grow as a human being. With this cultural context in mind, It could be that people like Strictly Ballroom because of its advocacy for multiculturalism and diversity, especially during a time period where prejudices and discrimination were not necessarily at its highest like the decades before the release of the movie, but it was still quite rampant during the transitionary period. One thing that is considered to be a standout element in Strictly Ballroom that separates the film from the other films at the time was actually Luhrmann's directing style. In 1993, Strictly Ballroom was released alongside films like Schindler's List, Mrs. Doubtfire, and Jurassic Park. If we're going to be comparing via film genres, then Strictly Ballroom, which is considered a rom-com, would be measured up against, again, Mrs. Doubtfire, Much Ado About Nothing, and Sleepless in Seattle. And if you watch all of these films and compared Strictly Ballroom's cinematography and directing to it, then you'd notice one thing. Luhrmann's style, compared to these movies, is wild. It's vibrant, it's flamboyant, it's fast, and it's pretty much like watching a carnival ride on steroids for 1.5 hours straight. This is because Luhrmann had actually coined this directing style as red curtain cinema, where he really embraces the high realism and the theatrical senses of the story and then dials it up to the camp factor in order to keep the audience entertained and engaged, and also to give that sense of whimsy and magic on screen through his bright caricatures. Now, obviously, this may not be to everyone's taste. Some might prefer a slower direction in films where the actors' micro-expressions are in focus. And some might prefer more Kubrick-style directing where every single frame is meticulously planned. But in the context of Strictly Ballroom, Luhrmann's red curtain cinema directing style does succeed in differentiating the film from the others, and people who like Strictly Ballroom may see the cinematography as pretty much a fun time. To keep in the trend of Luhrmann's preference for vibrancy and theatrical flamboyance, another standout feature of Strictly Ballroom that actually won an Oscar award was the costuming. Of course, you can't have ballroom-centered films without the beautiful costumes, and Baz Luhrmann's wife, Catherine Martin, did not fail to deliver that. Considering that the film was working on a limited $3.3 million budget for the overall production, you have to admit that what Martin did in this film was pretty amazing. Much like costumes in every other film, the clothing choices and attires for each character in each scene represents either their core personality or their emotions, and as the film progresses, they might change into other clothes to signify the type of development that their arc is going through. In Strictly Ballroom, as Martin said about her husband, they took the internal workings of a character and turned up the volume. I could of course go much deeper into color theory and what each color for each costume for each character represents, but that is a completely different rabbit hole for another time. In the meantime, this is pretty much enough said type of situation as to why someone may like Strictly Ballroom. It's for the costumes. The next major element of the film that contributes to its success in winning the hearts of audiences like you and I is the music, the score. In fact, it's charmed its way into so many people's hearts to the point where the film even won a BAFTA award for Best Original Film Score. Now, because this is a story set in a ballroom world where each character lived, breathed, and died ballroom, it makes sense that the original scores would need to be created to mirror the character's journey, and David Hirschfelder did a wonderful job with that, especially with the most memorable scene being the climactic ending where Scott and Fran performed the Paso Doble. But what I think was the true bread and butter of this film's music scores were the film's own renditions of popular songs they used throughout the movie. For example, the Blues and Noob, which they use at the very start of the film when they are introducing the dazzling world of ballroom competitions. It's a familiar song, it grabs your attention because you already know it, and you have the preconceived notion that whenever you listen to this song, someone is dancing a waltz, which is exactly what was going on. They also made their own renditions of Perhaps, 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 Time After Time, Standing in the Rain, and their main theme reworked to a ballroom mix, Love is in the Air. Now, what I found interesting was that Luhrmann didn't use these songs conventionally in his films, as other films tend to do. Usually, other films would get a popular song, overlay a montage, and call it a day. What Luhrmann did was that he utilized these songs to, yes, sometimes make montages at various points of the story, but he would always have some sort of dance choreography set to it, as if they were performing to the song itself, or at least some sort of artistic beat to the direction that feels like a music video rather than just a movie. By doing this, he gives the already popular songs new life and introduces a new refreshing medium for us to enjoy the songs as if we were listening to it for the first time again. So in other words, if you're drawn to Strictly Ballroom, it might also be because of the score. And of course, the next element I want to introduce as to why you may like Strictly Ballroom, and is also my personal favorite, the choreography and the execution. Much like everything else in this film, the choreography for Strictly Ballroom, especially in the final paso doble sequence that equates to the climax of the story, it's all very theatrical, very exaggerated, and very flamboyant. However, we always appreciate a good choreography that makes it clear as to what type of ballroom style is being performed. Whether that is a traditional waltz or a samba, or contrasting it to a more freer style, as well as the choreography also being another medium for the characters to express their own subconscious emotions to us. As far as I know, there were quite a few people who contributed a bit to the choreography for this film. The main choreographer is John Cha-Cha O'Connell, but I also read somewhere that Paul Mercurio, the actor who played Scott in this film, has also contributed to the choreography, having come from a strong ballet background as well. And as it goes with movies, especially ones that are very dance-focused, the choreography on screen means nothing if it is not executed well. Personally, as a dancer who adores movies, I think Mercurio did a fantastic job with the execution of his and O'Connell's choreography. Obviously, it helped big time that Mercurio was already a professional ballet dancer when they casted him, but being able to showcase his versatility in pulling off various ballroom styles seamlessly really helps with the immersion of the audience, and making us believe that we are at a ballroom competition, or we're truly seeing the authentic paso doble for the first time at the back of a house next to a train station, or even pulling us into the romantic chemistry between Scott and Fran as they continue to rehearse the same thing together over and over and over again. Therefore, it goes without saying that the choreography and the execution of it within the film may be another factor into why someone may like Strictly Ballroom. And of course, finally, there is the story itself. Just what about this story draws us in? Is it Scott's internal conflict of not wishing to be a failure to his parents, but also wanting to break the mold and create his own moves? Is it Fran's story of at first feeling unsure about the new world she's been dropped into and feels so out of her league, but eventually learns to find her confidence in the new roots of her family? Is it the love story between Scott and Fran as they learn to put aside their differences and be open-minded and trying new things with each other while also searching for their own identities? Or, is it just the wild antics of the members of the Australian Dance Federation as they go to extreme lengths to make sure that Scott does not dance? Although the plot may seem wildly overblown and convoluted, especially for those of us who aren't a part of the ballroom world, there are still relatable lessons that can be learned through this film that most audiences would still be able to appreciate. With all its little subplots that run parallel to the main story, there is bound to be one element of the story that we're specifically drawn to. Now, linking it all together, we've dissected the film to its relevant elements that may factor in as to why we would be drawn to this film. We've got the director's intent, which was Luhrmann's frustrations with the concept of rules stifling students' creativities. We've got the snapshot of the 90s culture that the film was made, with the inclusion of Fran and her family being immigrants and struggling against a world who essentially colonizes her culture's dance. We've got Luhrmann's red curtain cinema directing style. We've got Martin's costume design, and Hirschfelder's original scores and new rendition of popular songs. We've got O'Connell's choreography, and of course, we have the story and the character arcs. Okay, I've done enough yapping. Now it's your turn. If you haven't seen Strictly Ballroom, I do highly recommend watching it at least once. And then I want you to reflect on 3 things. 1, did you like the movie? 2. Why? Why not? 3. Was it for any of the reasons that I listed here, or have you found new reasons that I've missed? I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the month, and remember, we're all in this journey now to find a truth that is much greater than ourselves. There is no going back, but I will do my best to make it fun for you guys. I'll see you in March for our next date. Bye!